Welcome back to Morning Joy, where truth matters. I'm your host, Keith Downey, and very excited to introduce our next guest. He's the one guy you'd want if you're behind enemy lines. It's Father Peter Pomposello, trained paratrooper, priest recruiter / chaplain for the Army. Good morning, Father.
Good morning, Keith. Thanks so much for having me on.
A pleasure. Absolutely. So, to get it right out there, you're a priest. You're also in the Army. I was just thinking, when's the last time I've thought about a priest in the Army? It's probably like World War II or Vietnam. And then I just have no thought or recollection of just
Nash probably comes to mind, right?
Nash.
Father Mulcahy and
that's right.
Right?
So tell us how this all works. So you became a priest later, right? So tell us a little bit about
So I had been in the Army. My dream was to become an Army officer out of college. I really wanted to serve on active duty as an infantry officer. But a lot of things with the Army, it's the needs of the Army and the opportunity, and it just wasn't there. It was the end of the first Gulf War. There was no possibility to serve on active duty. So I was depressed for about 5 minutes, and then I got a job, and I was in the reserves for 8 years as an infantry officer. Wow. But then I received the call to kind of pursue the priesthood in earnest, and I resigned my commission, always hoping to come back in and do what we're doing right now as a priest in serving soldiers, bringing soldiers to God and God to soldiers. And by the grace of God and the grace of my bishop, Archbishop Cardinal Timothy Dolan, he lets me do this special work for the Archdiocese for the Military Services.
Wow, that's incredible. So yeah, you mentioned the Archdiocese there. So do you have a specific parish? I don't assume you would, or diocese that you watch?
No, so it's very interesting. Every priest is on loan to the Archdiocese for the Military Services. And we're on loan from our home bishop to Archbishop Timothy Broglio, who is the Archbishop for all things Catholic in the armed services and the VA hospitals. So that's the way it works is we're on loan, we serve. It's really just an assignment, and I try to tell that when I recruit potential priests, they think, oh, do I have to go in for 20 years? And I like to be. It's like, no, it's an assignment. You want to do 36 months. Do 36 months, see if you like it, and see if your bishop is okay with it, and then you go from there.
Wow, interesting. So, you have two big entities here. You got the United States Army, and then you also have the you almost said United States Catholic Church. You have the Catholic Church. So ultimately, you have these two. Who do you ultimately answer to?
Well, it's always to God. There is a tension there. There really is, and that tension needs to be resolved in the truth, of my identity as a priest. The Army wants me to be a priest. The Army wants me to recruit priests who know their identity, who know that they're called to be men of God and truthful and faithful to the sacraments. Even when there is tension, we know there's tension socially, right? The social norms of our culture, and the Army exists in our current day culture. There's tension there on so many different levels in terms of family and marriage and all these kinds of things, sexuality. But we stand as beacons of the truth and ministers of God as priests to bring soldiers to God, God to soldiers, and also to allow these soldiers their freedom of religion, to exercise their First Amendment right to their freedom of religion. And there's tension there, but it's resolved where it should be in the freedom of religion.
Oh, that's great. One thing I saw is that there's only 90 Catholic priests to serve the entire military. And you need, 400?
Yeah, I'm one of less than 90 on active duty in the Army. In the Army, I can't speak for the Navy numbers or the Air Force numbers, but we're all hurting. And it's kind of, generally speaking, we're hurting for vocations in the United States, which is why we're so grateful to the bishops who are generous and allow priests to serve. It's a sacrifice on the bishop's part. If you are Bishop Keith Downey, if you had to run your diocese, you need your priests. Yeah. And who am I looking for when I show up recruiting? I'm looking for the young guy who's motivated, who's looking to, do physical things. So it's a big ask, and we are very grateful to the generosity of the bishops that allowed them to serve in the military.
Yeah, I could see that being very difficult when we already have a priest shortage, but our military also needs priests. Like,
Yes, exactly.
come on.
And you know what? It's a good way to frame it is that they belong to a diocese. They all came from somewhere, and this is where the church goes to serve them and meet the needs and the needs of their family. Especially at such a critical time. Most of the Army is 18 to 25 years old. Most of my parishioners, so to speak, are 18 to 25. They're beginning marriages and families, and they need God in the sacraments. They need the church to be there for them.
That's true. I mean, we want the people that are keeping our country free to have accessibility to our sacraments. Absolutely. Thank you for doing that, by the way. Now, your path is unique. Would you say it's more of like an attractive path? Like this is the military. It's very masculine, and then you have the priesthood, which is also masculine. Like, do you see more individuals attracted in that manner, or what are you like?
I think I think it comes down to God and country. I think it's a patriot and a priest that says, "Wait a minute, I can do this. Like, I want to do this for the soldiers." We see soldiers and we thank soldiers for their service, and it's wonderful. But what better way for a priest to give thanksgiving for soldiers in their service than to offer mass for them, to put on a uniform and to get his boots muddy and to board planes, trains, automobiles, jump out of planes if that's what you're called to, like whatever that the hardships that the soldiers endure, if a priest can be right there alongside them, that's awesome. And that's how you win. That's how you win over souls. That's how you evangelize. This is missionary work. I'm a missionary to my own culture, in my own country, in my own language, but it's missionary work because I'm inserted into this workspace, this federal workspace, and it's like, wait, you're a Catholic priest? Like, yeah, I'm a Catholic priest. Like, I grew up Catholic. I don't really go to mass anymore. Can I talk to you about this, Father? Bingo! Look at that. There I am.
That's great. Wow. You mentioned a little bit. You've been deployed quite a few times.
I have.
What is it like saying mass in a deployment?
So a deployed environment, it's not just one endless horrible scene from Saving Private Ryan. That we should get that out of our head. But a deployed environment is often very austere. You don't have the amenities that you'd have in a church when you go to church on Sunday. It's I could start with some simple stuff like it's usually not a clean environment. I've said mass, several hundred yards away from burning garbage pits and in sandy and just dusty remote areas. But can you imagine the appreciation of the soldiers when I step off of that helicopter or that truck? And it's like the priest is here for them, and he's going to live there with them for a short amount of time, ideally 96 hours, 72 hours. And I'll set up shop. I'll hear confessions before dinner meals. I'll usually just set up shop about 2 hours before dinner. Hey, I'm going to be here. I know this is where you come to eat, so I'm going to be here. I'm going to hear confessions for an hour, and I'm going to say mass. Anybody wants to come? And I measure my success by has everyone on that camp, do they know that I was there? As long as everybody knew I was there, then I did my job. Whether or not they wanted to come and talk to me and engage with me, that's up to them. But I would stand at the head of the chow line and just say hello to everybody and hand out the knives and the forks and the plates and say, hey, how's it going? Yeah, I'm going to be here for a couple of days. And that's the most important thing. I need to create the opportunity for them to engage with the priest in ministry.
Have you experienced any like reversions or conversions when you're on deployment?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think I haunted one guy. Well, because that's the Holy Spirit really working because he was he was kind of like, not really practicing his faith. He would come, he would not come. And I had actually told him, I was like, when we were stateside, I was like, "All right, come on, I didn't see it." Like, it's like, yeah, it's hard for me to get away. I'm getting busy. I'm going. I have to deploy, and then lo and behold, like a month later, on a pile of rocks in the middle of nowhere. He's like, "Padre, what are you doing here?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm here for you, dude."
Oh, that's great. Yeah, I can only imagine. You're deployed as a soldier, and my goodness, you're putting your life in danger. And the thing that you probably makes them feel at home a little bit more, as much as it can be, is having as far as a Catholic, having access to a Catholic priest, which in this day and age, like you said, there's only so few. So you're going out there, you're on social media. You go by Father Uncle Sam?
Yeah, fr.Uncle Sam on Instagram. And you can find out more information about our whole mission at goarmy.com/chaplains.
Awesome. I have a question. Are there any priests in Space Force yet?
The answer is, I can answer that one pretty clearly. There are no priests in the Marines. There are no priests in the Space Force. They draw from the Navy. They draw from the Air Force. So there is no such thing as a Marine priest or a Space Force priest. They're served by the Air Force. Space Force is served by the Air Force, and Marines are served by Navy priests.
Oh, interesting. Is there any particular reason?
The entities are so small, and the needs are so great, and so also they're kind of assignments within assignments. You'll serve as a Space Force chaplain for that assignment, but then you could go back to a fighter wing, or go to some other entity within the Air Force. Same thing for the Marines and the Navy.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes a little bit more sense. I just envision a Catholic priest saying mass and like on the moon or something.
Yeah, with like a really cool suit on, Space Force.
Yeah, right. My goodness, that's silly.
Well, what's cooler than jumping out of airplanes? Come on, Keith.
That's true.
Seriously.
There's nothing cooler. I mean, like, can you imagine like you're gonna be jumping out of the plane to say get confessions going? I would jump out of the plane to go to confession with you.
There we go.
There we go.
We gotta go skydiving. Let's go skydiving. We'll do it.
We'll do it. Are you staying for the after show clubhouse?
Oh yeah, I got time.
Awesome. All right. So listeners out there, if you're going to be tuning in to Mass right after the show, please pray for us. We'll see you bright and early tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. Central, 7 a.m. Eastern. Otherwise, stay tuned with us on YouTube and Facebook as we stream our after show clubhouse. Let down our hair a little bit. Have some fun. You can find us at GRN Online on Facebook and or YouTube. So catch us there. We'll see you real soon. Otherwise, I hope you have a blessed and make it a joyful day. We'll see you right next. We'll see you soon. Take care.
This has been Morning Joy, where truth matters, hosted by Keith Downey. Take some joy with you today. Visit grnonline.com/joy to listen again, share a segment, or answer the question of the day. That's grnonline.com/joy.
All right, welcome back to Morning Joy. Well, the after show clubhouse for Morning Joy. Every time I hear that doorbell, I get anxiety thinking it's the solar guys trying to get me to buy solar again. It's too much. I don't need solar. All right, welcome to all of our awesome people that are watching on Facebook, YouTube. Hello. And then Father Peter Pomposello, are you with us?
I am. I'm here. How's it going?
Good. Thank you so much for joining us again. I obviously have some additional questions that I'd love to ask, but one question in specific, and it's something that's kind of done somewhat traditional of the course of the show, is that anybody who's new, whether they're guest or new to the after show clubhouse, the question we ask, and I'll let you chew on it, marinate as we move on, so that way you have some time to think of it. But if God were to call you home today,
oh boy,
what would you want to be the saint of? What would you be the patron saint of? So we'll let you think about it a little as we.
I'm going to think about that.
Stretch some time. I keep going, and I haven't changed mine. I would want to be the patron of focus, because I have so very little. It's bad. I'm like that. What is that? That dog on Up, squirrel.
Right.
I'm like that guy. And then Tim, I always have to go to Tim. Tim, our senior producer. You would be the patron saint of
Trombonists.
Trombonists.
Oh, boy, there we go.
That's because they don't have one. No, but Keith, you keep saying you don't have any focus, but I don't see that because when you're working with me, you are quite focused.
I have
You have
a
not missed a
OneNote.
cue yet.
I have a OneNote, okay, that is very detailed, more so than our show notes, because if I don't have something that I follow along with, I'm going to derail everything.
I'm telling you, though, and in the 5 or 6 weeks we've been doing this show, you have not missed a single cue. I've
that's
missed
the Holy
some.
Spirit. That's the Holy Spirit.
It happened today. It happened today when in that segment where Keith was asking me, or Debbie was asking me how my Lent was going, and you guys were listening. You know, the audience wasn't hearing me, and you know why? It's because I missed a button over here. And it's like, what kind of amateur hour is this? Oh my gosh! I was getting texts from people in San Antonio saying, "Hey, we're not listening. We're not hearing the callers." I'm like, "What? What's going on?" Oh, it's that button right there. Okay.
So they just didn't hear you.
They just didn't hear me.
Okay.
I know.
Yeah.
That's embarrassing.
Well, that's okay. It happens. It happens.
And you're the patron saint of focus. Okay. But trombonist, we need some focus too.
Hey, there's a need for just about anything. Anyways, I hope I gave enough time there, Father.
I think you did.
Okay.
I think I got it. I would like to be welcomed into the halls of heaven. Please God, by His mercy, by the blood of His Son, to be the patron saint of procrastinators.
There you go.
There we go.
Because I get them, and I am. It's a group that I think anybody can slip into at any time in their lives. But I also I value it's. I just value being able to like seize the task and get it done, and not put it off, grabbing the bull by the horns. And I would love to be that advocate for people. It's like, no, you don't have to be like, I want to get you out of procrastination. I can get you out of this. Like, don't be that guy. Don't be that girl today. You can do this. But I'm also, I either do my laundry and fold it and put it right in the drawer right away, or it just kind of, the clean pile of laundry sits on the chair.
Yeah.
Then it goes on the bed. Then I got to get it off the bed, back to the chair, and I could do that, and it's not a good thing.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Excuse me, as my voice gets even deeper as we continue on. Sorry, I'm suffering. I don't even know what I'm suffering. I think it's it's some sort of illness that's getting passed around here. But that doesn't matter.
Where are you actually?
I'm in Arizona.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay. This is like a bizarro setup. Like I'm in the studio, like talking to you on a laptop, and
All
like
by
you're
yourself.
in Arizona.
Yeah, tell me about it.
And Tim's making it all work.
You know, what's really funny, Father, is that did you know that you and I are on a podcast together?
Same episode.
Same episode.
I know.
Don't even talk to each other.
We've never even met, never said two words to each other before, like, what, 19 minutes ago?
I know. I blame Taylor Schroll.
I do. Let's blame him. Let's just beat him up. Taylor, come on. Really, dude. Because I'm in Houston right now, too, which actually I don't think Taylor doesn't know that. But I met up with Taylor online. It was one of those, all of this stuff has all been online. I've been just kind of reaching out and putting it out there on Instagram. And people like yourselves, like Tim and Ivan, and Guadalupe Radio Network. Shout out to Joe Schuyler for getting me, in touch with you guys, because it helps promote this message that so few people really know about. And some people criticize me and they'll say, what are you going to, how is this going to get you leads? How are you going to find priests? And it's like, hey, we're scattering seeds. You don't know where this stuff lands. You don't know where this goes. And it does. It generates leads. I get phone calls. I get emails. fr.UncleSam on Instagram. And like people will, I'll get a priest who'll DM me and say, hey, I think I like what you do. Like, how do I do that? And it's like, that's why we're doing it.
That's incredible. How long have you been a priest for?
20 years. It'll be 20 years, May 15th.
Wow.
Shout out to my classmates in New York, the Archdiocese of New York. We're getting together for a big celebration on Anniversary Day. We'll have a big dinner together. And a group of us are going to take a little pilgrimage to Rome. So it's going to be beautiful.
Cool. Wow. I'm somewhat, you're a young dude. Like
I was once. I'm 50. I'll be 55.
So quite a bit has changed in 20 years as far as technology goes.
Leaps and bounds.
have you seen a difference in how people come? I mean, obviously people come to you through Instagram, but like, is there more of a draw now that people have access to see you and
You know, I'm glad you're bringing this up because I was a big tech geek in my younger years. I saw all of this coming. I saw the internet coming when I was a young man. I taught computers at a time and in an age where people didn't have computers in their homes. And I was the guy standing on his head saying, this internet thing's coming. It's going to be big. It's going to be amazing. And people were like looking at me like, what do you mean internet? Like, what are you talking about? But I was so deep into the culture of it all. And I loved it. And I taught it. And I was teaching. I'll show you how old I was. How old I am. When I was a young school teacher, public school, I had a room full of sixth graders. Now, just imagine trying to do this today. Room full of sixth graders, and I would start the lesson by saying, hey, I got something special for you today. This is going to be great. I'm going to teach you how to pass notes to each other. It's called email. And the kids are like, tell us more about this email. And they didn't know. It was all brand new. This is going back to 1992, 93. So then fast forward, I gave it up. I let all the tech stuff go. I wanted to focus on formation and becoming a priest. And now I joke that this job brought me back to technology. I took up social media for Lent last year, and I'm still in it. And you know, I'm becoming more and more convinced that we need content like your show, like Morning Joy, and we need more Catholic content. We need to occupy the space because, I mean, newsflash, the internet's full of lots of stuff that you don't want to go near. So it's awesome that we can occupy this space and push to the margins, you know, the things that put us down and that get in the way, and give people an alternative to pull them out of the morass of what is sliming around on the Wi-Fi.
Sliming around on the Wi-Fi. That is so true. My goodness, the things, like you said, the 90s, like kids didn't know much anything because obviously to get access to the internet, you had to dial up, and that takes forever. And it's on your home computer. So, but now like every kid has like smartphones and access to everything and anything at any given time. So that's wild. Yeah, it's a different climate for sure. Do you what is your main, what are some challenges that you come across when it comes to trying to get people interested? Because obviously you're doing two things at once. You're essentially getting people interested in the army, but also the priesthood, which are two kind of separate vocations.
And it's a top-down, bottom-up challenge. I need to work just as hard. Every priest recruiter needs to work just as hard to convince bishops to be generous and give their priests up for a term of service in the army. I have to work just as hard to convince bishops of our mission as well as recruiting the priests themselves. I could have a room full of priests. I could have a stadium full of priests, motivated, in shape, ready to go. They want to join the army, but if their bishop says no, no is no, and they're not going to get anywhere near a uniform. So it's top down with the bishops, bottom up, and we kind of work that way. And I'm just so grateful. Like I've had bishops. I had one bishop, God bless him. I met with him and I went to pitch him just to tell him, hey, this is where I'm at. We need priests, and he took it so seriously. He said, I have military installations in my diocese. I feel very strongly about this. Help me find the right guy for this mission. And what a blessing. Like, that's awesome. That's the best of it, Yeah. Wow. And then my goal, I think every recruiter's goal, is not to go out into the street and find people. It's to get the message out so that people find you and call you and email you and get in touch with you. And that's what you're helping me to do with this platform. I'm so grateful for it.
Oh, well, just grateful to have you on in general, Father. Your energy, it's great. And you're a Catholic priest. It's so good. So you're in the army, obviously. This is just my ignorance. Okay, this is do they assign you like a rifle or a gun as a chaplain?
Oh, very good. Let's talk about that. So, a chaplain in the United States Army, and this isn't common to every army in the world, but for the United States, chaplains are non-combatants, We do not carry weapons. We're not given that responsibility or that burden of violence when you consider it that way. I'm not a trigger puller. And I think there's so much wisdom in that. If you unpack that, I say this, my poor sister, Christine, she gets upset with me when I talk this way, but I'm going to talk this way. I speak very plainly to my soldiers. You're training to shoot the enemy in the face. Father, don't say that. She calls me Father Brother. Father Brother, don't say that. I'm saying it. I'm saying it out loud because this is what we train for. We're trained to be a lethal force and an arm of diplomacy and a resort that we hope we never have to go to. But that's what an army stands for. An army stands to fight and win its nation's wars. So, yeah, I'm praying for all these soldiers to be killers without bloodlust, killers with the prudence and the professionalism that's exacted of an American soldier. And that is such a complex profession because this profession has so many moral dangers to it. It's not just bombs and bullets. It can eat a person's soul if you go in the wrong direction with this kind of thing, with that kind of burden of violence and being trained in this kind of lethality. So that being said, I stand aside from them. I'm called to be a force multiplier, but I'm not called to pull a trigger. And what a value there is to that, because let's say we go on a mission. Let's say that the soldiers come back from a mission and they come back with their lives and they killed a lot of people. They killed a lot of the enemy. And there's a burden with that. Yeah. There's a burden. We call it a moral injury, that they can suffer a moral injury from that. Now, some will resolve it in a healthy way, and they understand, I did what I had to do. This is what my nation charged me to do. I don't want to have to do it again, but I'll do it again if I have to. Some people will resolve it that way. Some people will not resolve it very well in two different extremes. In one extreme, they're going to be like, wow, that was like such an adrenaline rush. Like, I want to do that again. That was amazing. And that's not necessarily a healthy attitude. And then the other side of the coin is, I don't ever want to do that again. I don't think I can ever do that again. And they also need to be counseled. It's like, we need you. We need you to stay in the fight. We need to do this again. So I get to stand apart from all that to help and counsel them in all of those different directions. And I think one of the greatest values of a chaplain who's a non-combatant, without blood on his hands, he can look them in the eye and say, you did well. It's okay, and your nation thanks you for that. To hear that from all the other trigger pullers, they're going to say, oh, yeah, you killed as many people as I did. And, of course you're going to say it's okay. Yeah. But that guy over there, that priest over there, that chaplain over there, he's saying I'm okay. I want to know more about that. If he's saying I'm okay, there's a value to that evaluation that's different than the trigger pullers themselves.
Interesting. So, yeah, you mentioned it. You're kind of almost, not I want to call you a counselor, but you do counsel these individuals because of the work that they do, which is somewhat different, I guess. It's kind of being like a spiritual director in a way.
Yeah, no, and it all comes in there. I'm a faith leader. I provide the sacraments. Mm-hmm. I support soldiers and their families. I mean, that last piece of conversation, that's such an extreme because most of the Army is in support of the combatants, but there's so many different jobs and different professions within the Army itself. It doesn't all come down. It does all come to that in mission, but not in practice of most of the soldiers.
Gotcha. Cool. Tim, do we have any comments on our?
Oh, yes. We've got, there seems to be an issue with the YouTube stream right now, but a lot of people are hanging in there in spite of those lagging issues. Craig actually says that he enjoys listening to the new generation of old school servicemen like himself. So Craig is vibing with you, Father Peter.
Awesome.
And also we've got Eric listening and watching in Houston. So Eric, if you're near the studio, swing by. We got some donuts for you. We've got Brooks. Brooks says that she served as a chaplain assistant in the Army. And so I asked her what that experience was like, and she said that it's unique. It's you and your chaplain, and the assistant is armed, but like you said, the chaplain's not. And so they're like your bodyguard, secretary.
If Brooke were my chaplain assistant, Brooke and I would be what's called a unit ministry team, a UMT. And as a religious affairs specialist, as we call them now, or we used to call them chaplain assistants, now we call them religious affairs specialists, Brooke would be invaluable in terms of administration and helping me get to where I go. Hey, can you line up transportation? I need to go see these soldiers over there. I got to get to this place. And so Brooke can do great things administratively. And also, she is a combatant. She would be charged with carrying a rifle and force protection for the team, which is the two of us.
Wow. I did have a couple questions of my own. I mean, they could take us in different directions, but I wanted to hear kind of what a typical day is like for a chaplain. And then I also wanted to know if there are any kind of other military priests in history or saints that you look to personally for like inspiration, prayers, or examples.
So, first thing would be I can give you an experience. Your work as a chaplain is going to depend on the unit that you serve. So I served in two different infantry units, one airborne infantry unit, a straight leg infantry unit, and I was in an airborne aviation unit. And you become a part of the culture of that unit. You have to read the room, so to speak, and you got to know, okay, like what's their workflow? What's important to them? Where are they going? What are they doing today? And that's how you kind of insert yourself with them. And it goes a long way. They know, the soldiers know, they smell it a mile away, how authentic you are by coming out to share hardship with them. And that's the way you win them over. So, for example, in an airborne unit, I was in an airborne unit up in Alaska. I jumped out of airplanes in Alaska for 3 years. I loved it. And to show up with them when there's an early morning call, super early in the morning, it's 4:30 in the morning, it's dark out. And it's like, chaplain, what are you doing here? And like, well, you're here. I'm with you. I'm going on this jump with you. And they know. They know that, like, this guy doesn't have to be here. He could jump with there's a whole command group jumping this afternoon. Why did he get up early? He must be coming here because I'm here. Like, even if they don't process it, they kind of get it intuitively. So a typical schedule would be I'd get up, I go to work in the morning early to work out with the soldiers at PT, talk to my bosses to get a read of the day. What are their priorities? Because my boss's priorities are going to be my priorities to see the soldiers. And then I'll go and see them wherever they happen to be working that day. And then normally about midday would be lunchtime. I would make my way to the chapel and I'd say Mass. And that's the high point of my day there, to offer Mass. And it's set up so that soldiers can take part of their lunch break and go to Mass if they wanted to. Then I'll go back to my office. There'll be meetings. There'll be counselings. I'll get some things done, administrative things done. I usually end my day back at the chapel. I'll spend my holy hour in front of the Blessed Sacrament. I'll pray Vespers. And then it's one of two things. It's either I get to exhale and go home, or I have the evening events that would be associated with just kind of being a parish priest. I have the Knights of Columbus. I have the Women's Guild. I have, all these different things that could come my way. That's a garrison environment. That's if I'm on post. Mm-hmm. But then it all changes. If we go to the field, it's a whole nother ball game, because then ministry is always like within arm's reach of me. I don't have a phone. I'm not doing email, and I'm not like talking and texting because we're out in the middle of nowhere. And that's the best time for ministry. It really is.
Oh yeah, because that's when people are most vulnerable.
Yes. Yeah. And there's no distractions. Nobody's running home to their wife and kids. We're all sitting on, we're sitting on this mountaintop for the next 3 weeks to do this mission, and then we're going to go home. And it's great. You're having 3 meals a day together with each other. There's so much camaraderie and shared hardship, and it's fun. I just love it. Like I don't know why anybody wouldn't want to do this kind of ministry. If you have any taste for the outdoors, it's like, this is it. Get in touch with me, Uncle Sam on Instagram. We'll get you in there. You'll be a priest for the Army. You'll be great. Be a priest, be a soldier, be all you can be.
Nice. I love it. I wanted to let you know, Bishop Coffey has been on this show before, and he was one of our first guests in the first week, and he's said that he'll be able to come back fairly frequently as a regular contributor.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. Keith, did you have any other questions?
Yeah, I did have a couple. I don't sound excited. I am, by the way. This is the lowest. This is the highest I can go.
Is everybody like sick in the house?
Are you sick in the world?
Are
right
you
now?
patient zero, or are you giving it to everybody, or did you get it?
No, I got it. Yeah, my daughter was patient zero.
Okay.
Anyways, You mentioned doing mass next to like garbage or something. What was the strangest place you've ever done mass?
Straight. First thing that comes to mind, it's just like whenever anybody asks that question, on the edge of a cliff on Mount Sinai. That was the best. And I just kind of positioned myself. My friends were kind of nervous for me, but I was fine. But I was only about three feet away from like a sheer drop. But 3 feet's plenty of room. That's probably the most memorable mass in terms of setting and the sunrise, and we were on pilgrimage, and I was still a young priest with lifelong friends. Shout out to my book club. We've been friends for years now. It's over 20 years. I knew them as a seminarian, so that was very special to me. In an army setting, I would say I said mass. Oh, it was nasty, but this is what we had. This is what we had to do. I said mass in standing water. So like it was just the place. It was the best we could do to get out of the elements, to go into this room that was full of standing water on this dusty old table. We strapped a flashlight above the table, and I'm like, yeah, okay. And I used a rag to just kind of clean off the little space, and I was out in the middle of, oh gosh, I was in the middle of nowhere in I think it was in Syria. It was awful. It was just it was like, what do we, all right, Lord, like, you must really love us to visit us here and give us yourself in this environment.
He does. He does. Oh, man. He's probably thinking, now you get a little taste of what I got in the wilderness.
Well, and but what a privilege, right? To offer mass in the Levant, in that holy land. I mean, for all of the violence and the strife of that land, it's where the faith came from. It's amazing.
Yeah, that's just that paints an interesting picture. I'll say that. Hey, God can be everywhere as long as you have that Catholic priest out there that's in doing mass. What would you? Because earlier in the show we were talking about Lenten challenges. Like, we're knee deep in Lent, and seems like a lot of people are faltering and like, what do I do? What kind of advice would you give to, whether they're, in the military or outside of the military? What kind of advice could you give someone that is just needs to get back on track online?
Every day's a new day. Every day's a new day, and every meal is a new meal to deny yourself, pick up your cross, and follow him. Maybe you blew it yesterday. It's like you went for the cheese doodles when you said you weren't going to eat cheese doodles. Today's a new day. And set yourself up for success. Don't look at the cheese doodles. Don't buy the cheese doodles. Don't have the cheese doodles in the cupboard. It's really about that kind of discipline. And I fail too. I've been falling short. My biggest thing, I want to do less in terms of consumption of social media. I have some obligation to deal with social media, but I don't want to consume it. And it's a continuous switch to flip. You go from being a creator, which is great and it's healthy and it's a different outlet, but then you get curious, and then you're like, oh, wow, let me look at this. And then it's like, I'm wasting time with this. I'm really trying not to, I'm not sharing reels with a friend. Like, we share, it's like, all right, I'm not sharing reels for Lent. Like, that's step one, But every day is a new day. I know those in special operations, when they train really hard, they're in a training environment, and sometimes all they can do is just like, let me just get to the next meal. Let me just get to lunch, and then I'll keep going. Let me just get to dinner, and I'll keep going. And I think that's a healthy way for us to look at Lent. Like, let's just do this one meal at a time, and realize, allow yourself to be humbled. It's not you. This is not some stupid Olympics of figuring out how you can go without sugar in your coffee for 40 days. It's about trusting in the Lord and allowing Him to perfect your imperfections through His grace and not through your efforts.
Wow. Thank you for that bit of wisdom. That's very helpful, at least for me. At least I stumble too often during Lent. Wow, my voice cracked. I'm a teenager again. Great.
That's your Lenten struggle. That's your.
It
Lenten
is.
struggle.
It's humility. That's what I need. Humility. I didn't think I'd get this, but all right, here we are. Anyways, oh yeah, something just popped in my head. So you're Roman Catholic. Are there any other rites within, like, Eastern rites?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. As a matter of fact, I'm kind of charged with, obviously, the Roman Catholic mission is my biggest and broadest priority. But we do recruit Orthodox priests, and then I look for bi-ritual priests. I'm working with a Maronite priest right now. There's a Melkite priest on maybe that might be considered. So, and it's kind of beautiful when you think about it that these other rites, these other ritual churches, they have soldiers serving, and they need the sacraments, and it's kind of beautiful that we can meet them with their own ministers and take care of them.
That's great. Are there any like non-denom preachers that show up, or
so they come in all stripes? You know, every chaplain. There's male and female chaplains. There's what would be considered very orthodox, very traditional. There's very liberal and very non-traditional, non-denominational. I think the strongest and the best of chaplain. I mean, everybody needs. They all serve the First Amendment. You know, Congress makes no law respecting an establishment of religion, prohibiting the free exercise of religion. So they all have their place. But I find myself attracted most to the chaplains who have an identity. And they're not just trying to be a Swiss Army knife in meeting the needs of who's in front of them. Nobody's looking for that. Everybody's looking for authenticity. Everybody's looking for, and I'm not going to pretend to be an imam. I'm not going to pretend to be a rabbi. But I will get you to the imam. I will get you to the rabbi. And I think I'm going to win your respect more so than me trying to, playing pretend ministry. The chief of chaplains is not looking for you to play pretend ministry. The chief of chaplains wants you to live your call. What is your call? Live it, and live it for the good of the soldiers and their families.
Nice. That's refreshing, and authenticity. Like, we love authenticity. With whether it's you doing what you're doing, not plain pretend, and then also our Catholic faith, authenticity of our Catholic faith. Well, cool. So, Father Peter Pomposello, we can find you obviously on Instagram, Father Uncle Sam. Where else can we find you aside from just Instagram? So,
Father.Uncle Sam on Instagram. You could send me an email at priestrecruitereast@gmail.com. I do have a presence on Twitter. I'm not that active on Twitter or Facebook as well, but we're out there. But goarmy.com/chaplains. That's a great place to start. Find out more information and to reach out.
And a quick blessing, Father, if you will.
Absolutely. The Lord be with you, and may Almighty God bless you, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. God bless you, your ministry to the Word, Keith, and all that you do for Guadalupe Radio Network.
Thank you so much. And God bless you, Father. You're always welcome on the show.
Thank you.
Invite's always out there. And hey, if you're listening or you're streaming from YouTube or Facebook, we'll be streaming tomorrow once again, every weekday, 6 a.m. Central, 7 a.m. Eastern, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, ready to go. So stay tuned. We'll see you tomorrow. What is tomorrow? Thursday. So yeah, have a blessed day. Make it a joyful one. See you tomorrow.